Hello everyone. So today's topic is going to be HCF and LCM. Now let's try and understand each one of that in detail. So whenever we talk about HCF, it is highest common factor. Now we'll also look at each and every word individually in detail. So let's first talk about the factor. So how do we define a factor? So factor is a number which will completely divide our original number. That will be the factor of that number. Let's take an example. Suppose 6. So we need to find out the factors of 6. So let's see how many numbers will divide 6 completely. So for example, 1 will divide 6 completely, 2 will divide 6 completely, 3 will divide 6 completely, and also 6 will divide 6 completely. So we can in a way say that there are 4 factors of 6. But now, apart from the factor, we also need to figure out the common factor. So obviously, when common will happen when there are more than one number. So for example, there should be 2 numbers, 3 numbers, and out of them we can then figure out the common factor, the common one. So let's take another example. So let's take suppose 10 for example. So let's find out again the factors of 10. So 10 के factors होंगे 1 होगा, 2 होगा, 5 होगा and 10 होगा. So these 4 numbers will again divide 10 completely. Now out of these we have to figure out the common ones. So if you just simply compare the common ones, you'll see there are 2 common ones, the 2 common factors, that is 1 and 2 individually. And now comes the third and the most important part as well, which is the highest common factor. So there are 2 common factors, 1 and 2, and out of these 2, the highest one is something that we are supposed to consider here. So the highest one is obviously out of 1 and 2, the highest one is 2. So we can say that HCF of 6 and 10 is 2. And this is how you can calculate the HCF. Now what we can do is we can take some other examples also to solve. So let's find out HCF of, let's say randomly I will pick, let's say 24 and 60 for example. And what we did earlier was we initially factorized each one of them individually, and then we took the common and etc etc. Now what we will try to do is we'll try to figure out the factors together for both of them. So as we discussed, factor is something which will divide these both numbers completely. That is the factor. So let's start dividing these both numbers. So 24 and 60, obviously, if we think from a very basic point of view, both are even numbers. So both can be divisible by, we can say both can be divisible by 2 basically. So if we divide both these numbers by 2, what we will be left with? So obviously 12 2s are 24 and 30 2s are 60. Now these 2 numbers are again even numbers, so they can be also further divided by 2. So if these 2 numbers are again divided by 2, what we will be left with is 6 2s are 12, 15 2s are 30. Now coming to these 2 numbers, so these 2 numbers 6 and 15, they will obviously be divided by the same number, which will be 3 basically. So they both are divided by 3. So completely divided by 3, that's the point. So obviously 3 2s are 6 and 5 3s are 15. So that is your number. Now these 2 and 5, both these numbers, they are not divisible by any same number, and that is the point where we need to stop at this particular situation. And right now what we need to do is whatever the factors that we have written outside, to find out the final answer we have to multiply all of them together. So when we multiply these 3 numbers together, what we end up getting is, that means the answer will be HCF of 24 and 60 will be 2 into 2 into 3. So 2 2s are 4, 4 3s are 12. So 12 is your answer for the HCF of 24 and 60, and this is how you can find this out. Now here one more pro tip. For example, if your numbers are good, how this can help you drastically, that is, so if you know tables, then this helps you immensely to reduce the time taken for solving the same question. So for example, you could have directly said, after looking at these two numbers 24 and 60, that both these numbers are divisible completely by 12. So for example, 12 twos are 24, 12 fives are 60, and you would have straight away came to this step, and then obviously your time would have saved, and that is how you can utilize the good knowledge of numbers to calculate things faster, basically. So this is one example how to calculate HCF. Hopefully that is clear to you all. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, let's take the other example how to calculate HCF. So the numbers are right now 12, 18, 24 and 36. Suppose these are the four numbers, and we want to find out their HCF. How do we do this? So we can do the same thing. We have to figure out that all these numbers are divisible by which one particular number, which will completely divide all these numbers. So again, as we can say, these all numbers are even numbers, so we can divide them by 2, for example. So if we divide them by 2, what we will be left with? So for example, 6 twos are 12, then 9 twos are 18, 12 twos are 24, and then 18 twos are 36. Now these four numbers, that is 6, 9, 12 and 18, ये सारे numbers किससे divide होंगे? Again, if you understand properly, you will say that all these numbers will be divided completely by 3, for example. So we can divide them by 3 again. So when we divide them by 3, so 3 twos are 6, 3 threes are 9, 3 fours are 12, 3 six are 18. This is what we are left with. Now once all these numbers are there, which is 2, 3, 4, 6, after this stage again you will realize that all these four numbers, they are not divisible by any particular same number. So if you remember the process, this is where we will stop, and whatever factors that we have figured out, we will multiply them individually. So when we multiply them, all of them, that is 2 and 3, you get the answer to be 6. So we can simply say 12, 18, 24, 36 का HCF जो है, highest common factor, that is 6, and this is how you can figure that out also. Again, numbers would have been better, so you would have straight away said that these all numbers, four numbers are divisible by straight away 6. सारे के सारे 6 के टेबल में आते हैं. 6 twos are 6 threes are 6 fours are 6 6. So you would have straight away arrived at this step. थोड़ा सा टाइम बच जाता, which you can utilize somewhere else for faster solving. Okay, let's take one more example of calculating HCF in the similar fashion. And how do we do that? So right now the numbers are, let's take slightly bigger numbers, 513 and 783. So quite big numbers, and again, if your numbers are good, this will be a huge advantage that you can very quickly figure out that these two numbers are divisible by which particular number. So obviously both are odd numbers, तो 2 से तो divide नहीं होंगे. Let's check for 3 for example. तो hopefully तुम लोगों को 3 का divisibility test पता है, नहीं पता तो बता देता हूँ फटाफट. So 3 का divisibility test क्या होता है कि सारे digits को add करना है और उसका sum 3 से divide होना चाहिए, तो नंबर भी 3 से divide हो जाता है. So for example, 5 plus 1 plus 3, which gives me 9, and 9 is divisible by 3, तो obviously ये नंबर भी 3 से divide होगा. Similarly, 7 plus 8 15, 15 plus 3 18, 18 is again divisible by 3, so ये नंबर भी 3 से divide होगा. So both these numbers are divisible by 3. So divide them by 3. When we divide them by 3, so 5 and 3 को अगर 3 से divide कर दिया, तो 5 1s are 5, 2 रिमाइंडर आएगा, 3 7s are 21 and 3 1s are 3. फिर 783 को डिवाइड किया तो 3 से, 3 2s are 6 हो जाएगा, रिमाइंडर 1 18 यानी 6 and then again 3 1s are 3. So 261 is your number now. Now this is the point कि अगर तुम्हें इसको और फास्ट करना है तो नंबर्स अच्छे होना कंपलसरी है, वरना अभी बहुत टाइम लगेगा फॉर यू गाइस टू फिगर आउट कि ये दोनों नंबर कौन से सेम नंबर से डिवाइड होते हैं. So when you actually do the calculation, one very important thing that you all will realize that these two numbers, they both are again can be divisible by 3, I think. So this is again can be divisible by 3. So 3 5s are, and then 7s are, and then again 3 8s हो जाएगा 24, and then 7s हो जाएगा 87 हो जाएगा. And again these both numbers can be divisible by 3 because 12 and 15. तो 3 से वापस अगर इनको सबको डिवाइड कर दिया तो अगेन यू विल गेट 19 3s are 57 and 29 3s are 87. So we are left with now 19 and 29, and 19 and 29 are not divisible by any other number further, the same common number basically. So if you remember, this is where we will stop, and जो भी ये बाहर factors है इन सबको क्या करना पड़ेगा, multiply करना पड़ेगा for calculating the HCF. So when we do that, we get 3 into 3 into 3, which gives us the answer as 27. So basically 513 और 783 का जो HCF है वो क्या है, 27 है, and ऐसे हम figure out कर सकते हैं. Okay, so right now let's have a look at what is LCM and how to calculate LCM. So what is LCM first of all? So LCM is least or rather lowest common multiple. Now the word is changed, instead of factor it is a multiple. Now what is multiple? So again multiple is basically हम simply ऐसा बोल सकते हैं उसके टेबल में आने वाले नंबर वो हो जाएंगे उनके मल्टीपल्स हो जाएंगे, एंड वापस वही कॉमन होना चाहिए और लीस्ट यानी सबसे छोटा होना चाहिए. Now let's take the example. Suppose randomly if I take two numbers, let's say 6 and 10 for example. If I don't know anything and if I want to find out LCM, how do I do this? तो as I said, multiple यानी 6 और 10 दोनों के टेबल में आने वाला सबसे पहला नंबर, बिकॉज लीस्ट होना चाहिए, सबसे छोटा होना चाहिए. तो what I can simply just do is write down tables of both 6 and 10. So for example 6 ones are 6, 6 twos are 12, then 3s are 18, 24, 30, 36, 42 and so on so forth. If I write down 10 का table, तो 10 ones are 10, 10 twos are 20, 10 threes are 30 and 40 and so on so forth. Now if you observe something very particularly, you will realize one thing कि दोनों के टेबल में सबसे पहले आने वाला नंबर which we have already figured it out probably, that is 30, जो 6 के टेबल में भी आ गया और 10 के टेबल में भी आ गया. सो हम ऐसा बोल सकते हैं कि 6 और 10 का जो LCM है वो एक्चुअली क्या है, 30 है. एंड दिस इज द वेरी रफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ हाउ टू कैलकुलेट LCM, उनके टेबल में आने वाले नंबर्स. बट ऑब्वियसली हर बार हम ऐसा नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज द कैलकुलेशन समटाइम्स कैन बी बिगर ऑल्सो, or rather the numbers are also more. Instead of 2 numbers we might have 3-4 numbers. So how do we do this? Okay, so let's take an example. Suppose 6 और 10 लेते हैं, उनका LCM निकालना है. तो how do we figure it out? तो ये दोनों नंबर है, तो ये दोनों इवन नंबर है, तो 2 से डिवाइड हो जाएंगे. 2 से अगर इन सबको डिवाइड कर दिया विल बी लेफ्ट विथ 3 and 5. एंड इसी स्टेज पे हमें क्या पता चल जाएगा कि जो 3 and 5 है वो दोनों भी किसी सेम नंबर से डिवाइड नहीं होता है. एंड इफ यू रिमेंबर HCF के टाइम पे हम यहाँ पे रुक जाते हैं, बट LCM में ऐसा नहीं करना है. LCM में जब तक सारे फैक्टर्स एक्सट्रैक्ट नहीं हो जाते तब तक हमें एक्सट्रैक्शन फैक्टर्स का करते रहना है. सो ऑब्वियसली इसके बाद हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा, 3 तो बाहर लेना ही पड़ेगा, तो 3 से डिवाइड किया तो 3 1 3, ये 5 कुछ नहीं एज इट इज रहेगा. फिर 5 से भी एक बार डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा, तो 5 1 5 हो जाएगा. जैसे ही सारे 1 आ जाएंगे वी हैव टू स्टॉप एट दिस पॉइंट LCM के लिए. HCF के लिए इफ यू रिमेंबर हम 3 और 5 पे आके रुक जाते हैं, बट LCM में ऐसा नहीं करना है. जब तक सारे फैक्टर्स नहीं आते, एक्सट्रैक्ट नहीं हो जाते, तब तक करते रहना है. जैसे सारे 1 आ जाएंगे रुक जाना है, और ये जो भी सारे बाहर फैक्टर्स है सबको क्या करना है, मल्टीप्लाई कर देना है. सो व्हेन वी मल्टीप्लाई ऑल दीज नंबर्स, सो यू गेट एन आंसर which will be 2 into 3 into 5, which will be 2 3s are 6, 6 5s are 30. And if you remember पहले भी हमें वही आंसर मिला. So this is how you calculate LCM. Now obviously what we will do is we'll take few more examples so that you understand this all in more detail, the entire process of calculating LCM. Let's take another number, suppose 24 and 60 for example. और इनके टेबल नहीं लिख सकते, दिस इज प्रोबेबली वेयर यू विल अंडरस्टैंड इट मोर नाइसली. सो सपोज अगर इनका हमें HCF निकालना है, LCM निकालना है सॉरी, तो क्या करें? सो लेट्स अगेन इवन नंबर्स है तो 2 से डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, तो 12 और 30. वापस अगर 2 से डिवाइड किया तो 6 और 15. 6 and 15 both are divisible by 3, so 2s are and 5s are. तो इफ यू रिमेंबर HCF के टाइम पे हम यहाँ पे आके रुक गए थे, LCM के लिए ऐसा नहीं करना है. इफ यू रिमेंबर सारे फैक्टर्स क्या करने हैं, एक्सट्रैक्ट करने हैं. तो अभी एक बार 2 से भी डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा और एक बार 5 से भी डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा. जब तक सारे 1 नहीं आते तब तक हमें रुकना नहीं है. जैसे सारे 1 आ जाएंगे रुक जाना है, और ये जो भी सारे फैक्टर्स बाहर है इन सबको क्या कर देना है, मल्टीप्लाई कर देना है. सो व्हेन यू डू दैट, सो यू गेट द आंसर एज 2 into 2 into 3 also 2 into 5. So ये 2 into 2 into 3 जो है हो जाएगा 4 3 जा 12 हो जाएगा, और ये हो जाएगा 10, तो 12 into 10 यानी आंसर हो जाएगा 120. तो 24 और 60 का जो LCM है उसका आंसर क्या है, 120 है. एंड दिस इज हाउ यू सॉल्व इट बेसिकली. लेट्स टेक वन मोर एग्जांपल. सो द numbers are 12, 15, 20 and 27 for example. So अगर हमें इनका LCM निकालना है, how do we go about this? So now clearly you will understand something after looking at the numbers, that few of the numbers are even numbers and few are odd numbers. So कोई particular common factor नहीं है इन सब के बीच में. So we can start with anything. We can start with even numbers or we can start with odd numbers. The choice is ours. So suppose let's start with even numbers. So 12 and 20 we can say 2 से divide होते हैं, तो 6 आ. बट ये दोनों को कुछ नहीं होगा, तो ये दोनों as it is ही रहेंगे. 15 और 27 ये हो जाएगा 10 आ, ये रहेगा as it is 27 ही. Then again we can say 6 and 10 जो है वो दोनों वापस 2 से divide होते हैं, तो 3 2s आ and then 5 आ गया, and then as it is for the odd numbers. Now we can see that there are few numbers which can be divisible by 3 also, and then few can be divisible by 5 also. So let's say if I start with 3 for example, तो 3 से जो भी सारा डिवाइड होगा, तो 3 1s आ, 3 5s आ, 5 कुछ नहीं होगा तो as it is, but 27 हो जाएगा 3 से डिवाइड, तो आ जाएगा 9 आ जाएगा. फिर I can see 5 कॉमन ले सकते हैं, तो जो भी 5 वाले सारे हैं वो 1 हो गए, 9 बचा है, एंड लास्ट में 9 को भी बाहर लेना पड़ेगा कॉमन, सो सारे 1 आ जाएंगे. तो जब तक सारे 1 नहीं आते तब तक हमें करते रहना है. जैसे सारे 1 आ जाएंगे सबको करना है मल्टीप्लाई, जो भी बाहर वाले सारे फैक्टर्स है. सो व्हेन वी डू दैट, इन सबको मल्टीप्लाई, सो 2 into 2 into 3 into 5 into 9 हो जाएगा. सो ये जाएगा 4 4 3s are 12, 12 5s are 60, and 60 into 9, 6 9s are 54. यानी आंसर होना चाहिए 540 होना चाहिए when we calculate the LCM of 12, 15, 20 and 27. Okay, now let's have a look at another concept, which is HCF and LCM of fractions. So sometimes you may not have proper numbers, as we discussed earlier. You may have some decimal numbers or some fractions, and let's say you want to calculate their HCF and LCM. How do we proceed? So there is a simple formula that you guys will have to remember for calculating HCF and LCM of fractions. So let's say you want to calculate HCF of fractions. What you will have to do is, you will have to calculate HCF of all the numerators divided by LCM of denominators. And for LCM, it is going to be exactly ulta. It will be LCM of numerators divided by HCF of denominators. So this is the formula for calculating HCF of fractions and LCM of fractions. So provided you know the fractions, you will know the values of the numerators and denominators. What you need to simply do is do the calculation of HCF and LCM separately and just substitute the values in this particular structure and you will have your answer. But there's just one extra part that you will have to remember while applying this formula, that sometimes the fractions can be further reduced in the lowest possible form. So we need to make sure that those fractions are in the lowest possible form and then only you should apply these formulae. Otherwise, you should not apply these formulae. You have to first reduce them and then apply these formulae. Now, how do we do this? Let's take few examples. So just remember these formulae or make a note of it so that we can utilize that. So let's take an example. We have to find out the HCF and LCM both for the numbers 2 by 5, 4 by 15, 6 by 25 and 8 by 35. You have to find out HCF and LCM of both all these numbers. Now, first things first, what you need to understand is you have to first go through all the numbers and see whether all these numbers, any one of the fractions, can we reduce it further. And if you observe it minutely, you will realize that no, we cannot reduce any of these fractions further. So we'll have to now straight away apply the formula. So for HCF, if you remember, it was HCF of numerator and LCM of denominator. So when we apply that, what happens? The numerators. So the numerator are 2, 4, 6, 8. We have to find HCF of that. And the denominators are 5, 15, 25, 35. We have to find LCM of that. Now, how do we do this? So we'll have to do the calculation that we have done earlier for HCF and LCM. So what I'll do is I'll calculate separately. So for example, if I talk about 2, 4, 6, 8, and if I want to find their HCF, so clearly all these numbers are divisible by 2 only. So if I divide them by 2, 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4, 2 threes are 6, 2 fours are 8. Now these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, they are not further divisible by any other number. So that means the numerator HCF part is going to be 2 only. But now we have to find out the LCM for 5, 15, 25, 35, for example. We have to find their LCM. Now how do we do this? So all these numbers again I can see they are divisible by 5. So 5 ones are 5, 5 threes are 5, 5 fives are 25 and 5 sevens are 35. So after this, whatever factors there will be, they all will be uncommon factors because they are not divisible by any same number. So we can take out 3 probably, then we can take out 5, and then eventually we can take out 7 also. So now if I calculate the LCM, it will be multiplication, and it will be multiplication of 5, 3, 5, 7. So it will be multiplication of 5 into 3 into 5 into 7. So if I do this, so jayega 5 5s are 25 and then 25 3s are, which will be 75 and 75 into 7. So that will be 525. So point is the answer will be for the HCF only, the answer will be 2 upon 525 for all these numbers. Now this is only the answer of the HCF, which is 2 by 525. Now let's do the LCM. So for LCM, if you remember, it is going to be LCM of numerator and HCF of denominator. So let's do that. When we apply the formula, numerator is 2468. We have to find out LCM of that, and the denominator is 5, 15, 25, 35. we have to find out HCF of that. Let's use whatever we have done so far. So for 2468, if we calculate the LCM, so first we can divide by 2. Now we can again divide by 2. And now we can divide by 2 or 3, whichever you are most comfortable. So जैसे ही सारे 1 आ जाएंगे, we have to stop because we are doing LCM now. Don't forget that from the basics. So if you multiply these numbers, so ये हो जाएगा 2 into 2 which is 4, 4 into 2 which is 8, 8 into 3 which is 24. So this answer is going to be 24. Now after that we have to also calculate the HCF, and the HCF of 5, 15, 25 and 35. Now how do we do that? So 5, 15, 25, 35. HCF if we calculate, you'll realize that all these numbers, they are divisible only by 5, for example, and no other number. And this is what we are left with. And none of these numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, they are divisible by the same number. So we'll have to stop here. So HCF, the answer becomes 5. So the final answer, the LCM of the entire fraction, is 24 by 5, and the HCF answer, the entire fraction, the HCF is 2 by 525 after all the calculation. Now let's take another example to do this, which is 24 by 50, then 4 by 5 and 32 by 30. And similarly, we have to find out they're both HCF and LCM. Now as usual, what we need to first do is we need to first apply the concept, that is whether any one of these fractions can be further reduced or not. And when you think from that point of view, you'll realize that yes, the first and the last fraction, they both can be reduced further. So we need to first reduce them. So when we reduce them, both these numbers can be divisible by 2, for example. So this becomes, the new numbers becomes 12 by 25, then 4 by 5 remains as it is, and then this also can be divided by 2, so this becomes 16 by 15. So point is, now we have to apply the formula to these new numbers and not the original numbers, because they can be reduced further. So that was the point that I had mentioned about earlier. So now let's start with this. So let's say we want to find out the HCF, and if you remember, for HCF, what we'll have to do? We'll have to do HCF of numerator and LCM of denominator. So that is 12, 4, 16. We have to find out the HCF, and for 25, 5, 15, we have to find out the LCM for that matter. When you do this calculation, let's very quickly, 12, 4, 16, the HCF both can be divisible by 2. So 2 6 are 12, then you have 2 2s are, then 8s are, again they are divisible by 2. So this is what we are left with. Now these numbers 3, 1, 4, they all are not divisible by any particular number. So we will stop here. So when we multiply 2 and 2, we get the answer to be 4 for the HCF part. Now for the LCM part, so 25, 5, 15, we have to find out the LCM. So all these numbers, they can be divisible by 5, and then 5 and 3 both. So the LCM becomes 5 into 5, 25, 25 into 3, 75. So the entire answer for HCF becomes 4 by 75 after all the calculations. Now this was only the HCF part. Let's do the LCM also. So LCM of fractions, we know the formula. It is LCM of numerator and HCF of denominator. So that means 12 for 16 we'll have to take the LCM, and 25 5 15 we have to take the HCF. Let's do the calculation one more time. So if we start with, let's say, 12 4 and 16 for LCM, I can clearly say both these numbers are divisible by 4. So 3s are 4s are, and then 3 and 4 also can be taken out. So basically, if I calculate the LCM, it is 4 3s are 12, 12 4s are 48. So 48 is my LCM. Now I also am supposed to calculate the HCF of the denominators, which will be 25, 5 and 15, which will be 5 only, because 5 and 3 they are not divisible by the any same number. So LCM becomes 5. So the final answer for LCM becomes 48 by 5 after applying the formula and solving and then calculating and simplifying. So this is how you can calculate going forward for all the fractions. You can calculate their HCFs as well as LCMs both. So I hope you guys have understood this idea of HCF and LCM. Go through all of this one more time properly. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We'll be very happy to help you guys. Thank you so much.